I'm wrestling, not weak for me. Celebrate what I am. Celebrate what I have been. Celebrate what I represent. And celebrate the many ways I have impacted your life. I will survive this test as I have survived others. I am forever etched into the very fiber of all mankind. The world needs me. Time is on my side. History guarantees me. I am wrestling. Do not wait for me.
Welcome to episode number 5 of the T-Row and Funky Show. Brought to you as always by Defend Soap. Defend what you have built. And Tommy, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, my brother. I got a better weekend to rest than the past few episodes, so I'm excited and ready to rock and roll tonight. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about, Ben.
Well, your weekend might have gotten a little more rest. I did not, because it was alumni weekend in Columbia, Missouri. And Tommy, for the second weekend in a row, I do have bragging rights over you.
I know. And this weekend, much more deservedly so. You just came out and whipped the Buckeyes' tails fair and square. We put the best team out there, and at least that we have right now, and kind of validated Missouri wrestling as we head into the Christmas season that they're playing for keeps. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I was.
So I'll eat my crow. I mean, I'm a Buckeye fan. I'm a homer. I'm a diehard, but I'll eat crow. I take it like a man, Ben.
Well, I mean, I was kind of going to go to something else, but while you're talking about eating crow, I do have to bring someone up that needs to eat some crow, but is definitely hesitant to, and that would be none other than Mr. Christian Piles. Yeah, Christian, I'm calling you out. So anyone who is...
I didn't think we'd start that quickly.
Well, you talked about eating crow, so we might as well just get to it.
Right.
So Tommy, here's what happened, and I couldn't really explain my full thoughts in 160 characters, as sometimes it is difficult to do on Twitter. But so Missouri wins the Vegas invite by 40 points, right?
Correct.
Last week, and so they
what were they ranked going into the event?
They actually lost a spot on the tournament rankings on Flow. They went from 7 to 8, and it was the initial dual rankings, and they debuted at number 11. So my simple argument was that Ohio State, Virginia Tech, and Cornell, all teams who Missouri beat by 40 points or more, were ranked higher in both the tournament and the dual rankings.
Mm-hmm.
And so from my perspective, if you beat people by over 40 points, it's got to count for something. I mean, you got to be better than them at something. You don't just beat them by 40 points because you're worse than them at everything. And, I understand Christian's perspective of how the tournament team rankings, it's directly... the rankings cross over to NCAA points, that's how they get it. But I think his dual thing is kind of convoluted because he's saying, well, the tournament rankings are projected, but the dual rankings are only based on what has happened so far. And so since Missouri hasn't won any big duels, we can't move them up. But to what I'm saying is you got to count the tournament for something. The Vegas invite is definitely the second toughest behind the Scuffle. It's better than Midlands now. The second toughest college tournament of the year. And you're giving it no credence whatsoever.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you for the most part, Ben. The only thing I will say that Christian does have a tough job with tournament rankings and dual rankings. Unlike other team sports, you can really take matchups literally. Whereas, if you've got a center against a center in basketball or, an offense against a defense, it doesn't matter how each athlete does against, his opposition. There's a sense of cohesion, strategy, the ability to coach a well-coached game or what have you. And in wrestling, it's simply look at the individual rankings. If one team has, greater than 6 guys ranked more than the other team, then you would seem to think that they would win the dual meet, no matter what the results would indicate. And so, to me, I think that it's a tough job for Christian.
100%.
That being said, in the particular case of Missouri wrestling, in the past 10 days, I think your argument stands pretty tall.
Yeah.
And so that's where I empathize with what he's trying to say. At least I think that he's trying to say in 160 characters or less, and I get it. I really do. But in the case of Missouri wrestling, I think the guy was off, and I think you had him cornered. And so, anyways, that's my opinion of it.
Okay,
Ben.
so we won't stick on Christian too long, but Christian, I was right. You should just listen to me. You're going to sound a whole lot smarter if you just listen to me. I don't want your job. I don't want to rank. So I'll be expecting my public apology on FRL this week sometime because Missouri did prove what I was saying. So
I wish the Bucks could have helped his case out, honestly.
I know it really was. You kind of talked about wrestling being an individual weight by weight thing, who beats who. But I was in the arena last night, and there was definitely a lot of momentum to it. Missouri got beat the first two matches heavyweight at 125, and they're losing at 133. And Zach Sinon jacks up Johnny DeJulius, throws him to his back, gets the pin, and I mean it was electric. The arena went crazy, and that kind of set the tone. And then Manley, wrestles hard against Micah, gets the upset there. Mays wins,
and it was an upset for sure. But Manley was third in Vegas, so I would call it probably a mild upset. Ben, in your opinion, or was it? Yeah,
I'd say mild upset, but an upset nonetheless. And
right.
So that momentum really got in Missouri's favor, no doubt. So it is an individual sport, but momentum can carry the day sometimes. And
we're actually helping Christian's argument because we're saying how gray it can be in ranking this stuff. Which truth be told, it is a gray area. I just think in the case of Missouri, when they whomp everybody at the second toughest tournament, and it's not like they were ranked 17th going into the Vegas tournament either. I think that you had some good points. I will tell you though that what's interesting to me is in other sports, you like for example Alabama lost this year. I think it was either to Mississippi State or Ole Miss. You can lose games and still be ranked higher than the team 3 days later.
Yeah.
So I think that it proves well in the case of wrestling too. I mean, you can have teams that get upset. I know CP kind of made a comment to me on Twitter this weekend that was like, so now that Rutgers has beaten Nebraska, what's your argument? I mean, I don't know the specifics. I don't follow wrestling individual results nearly as closely as he does. But just because Rutgers beat Nebraska fair and square the other night does not necessarily mean that they should be ranked higher than Nebraska in duels. And that might be true in this case. I don't know those specifics, but that's rankings are rankings. They really truly don't matter. We all know that, but it's fun. And it matters in the sense that you can prognosticate, create dialogue. Probably half the reason you and I have a podcast is we have something to talk about with rankings and where people think others stack up. And so just because somebody wins a dual meet or wins a match doesn't mean that they should be ranked higher than the other guy 3 days from now.
100%. So the other really big duel of the weekend, which happened today, and it had a red shirt coming out, which was something we talked about last weekend, and which Miles Martin was doing his little warm up, moving around, shaking around, and then he sits back down on the bench, and they don't bring him out of red shirt.
Right.
So I don't know what the plan is there. Tom Ryan was playing some head games last night, but Oklahoma State did bring out Cade Brock, which is someone we talked about, and he comes up about as big as you can come up in your first collegiate match.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the full match, but he went out there against the defending national champion Cody Brewer, took him down, let him up, and then got in a big flurry. Brewer was going for broke. I think he had a bear hug or a body lock of some sorts, and then Cade Brock had double overs, went for the inside trip, turned into a pin, and was a huge, obviously event today in college wrestling. So obviously that guy's playing for keeps. He's ready to roll here.
Yeah, and that as we talked about momentum, that got the momentum going because Oklahoma State ended up winning 9 out of 10 matches, which Oklahoma's not a bad team. They've done fairly well this year, and they've had they had the big upset of Michigan, who's a tough team, and Oklahoma State they won 25, and it was a real close match. They get that pin from Cade Brock. And, man, it was just downhill from there, and they kind of slammed them.
Yeah. So what's your thought now in Cade Brock? It's only one sample of what he's capable of. But this has got to get John pretty tempted with JoJo. Marsteller, who did have a technical fall over the Oklahoma kid. I have no idea what that guy's story is. But when Marsteller's putting 15 points on the board, it seems like he was fairly active. What do you think? When do you think John makes a decision to pull his son out of redshirt?
Yeah, I'm curious if they're both going to attend Scuffle at 57, because that would make sense to see where Joe's at, and see where Chance is at, because obviously Chance struggles with the 1 hour weigh-in. In the tournament format at the Big 12s, at the NCAAs, he's not going to be wrestling on a 1 hour weigh-in. He's going to have 3-4 hours probably for that first match. So he will have significantly more recovery time, which when you're cutting a lot of weight, that makes a difference. So if I'm John, I'm going to wrestle them both at the Scuffle, and see how it plays out, and we can go from there. And who knows, maybe Cade Brock's enough to put that team over the top. But Penn State looked really good today. They smashed on Wisconsin hard. I mean,
was that in Madison or State College?
It was in State College. The Badgers wrestled Pitt yesterday and Penn State today, and I mean, they got bonus at 25, 33. Ryan Taylor, he didn't weigh in. I don't know what the deal is there. They got a regular decision from Cade Moss. Jimmy Gilbon didn't wrestle at 41. They got bonus at 49, bonus at 57, bonus at 74, bonus at 84, bonus at 97. I mean, they were on a roll today.
Yeah, they smashed 36-7 was the score there.
So they're looking good too. So I think, and I believe both of those teams. Man, I need to Google this, Tommy. I think both of those teams are at the Southern Scuffle.
So the other thing I want to talk about though, Ben, is explain to me the Wellington Cox deal. What happened there?
Oof. Yeah. Well, I wasn't there. I left really early this morning to come back. I had some stuff to do this afternoon in Wisconsin. Wow, that was one hell of a slam. And so, it's obviously Jaden's responsibility to bring the guy back down, but it looked like Jaden was following him, was trying to, lift, and as he went to lift the double leg, the guy did kind of a roll, and he landed on his head on the wood. That it was kind of scary when you watch it
I haven't seen it.
God, full speed. It's it's a little bit scary.
So do you think it was an accidental slam? Like he was, is Jaden a little bit negligent here? Or is it one of those slams where it's like you can understand how that position, even though it's unfortunate, you can understand how that happened?
Yeah. Well, the kid got up and he was okay, apparently from what I heard, but the trainer held him out for protocol or whatever. So I think he was ready to wrestle.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Jaden, you gotta be more careful, because if that's in a different scenario and you're DQ'd, that's big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
It's always the top guy's responsibility, even if the bottom guy doesn't roll or something. It's the top guy's responsibility to keep that situation safe. So, while I say maybe he's not 100% at fault, he's definitely at fault, and he's got to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Right, gotcha.
So, hey, one funny before we get Daniel's supposed to be calling in any minute now. Cormier,
okay.
Come on. Okay. Sorry, I got ADHD, Tommy, so I'm all over the place sometimes. I can't
It's
help
all
it.
good. It's all good, Ben. I like it.
Okay, one stat, one funny. Number 1, Oklahoma State. Number 2, Penn State. And Michigan, Minnesota, Cornell, Lehigh are all at the Scuffle, so that's going to be tough. Here's a funny one. Kenny Korth kept doing the finger grab gig yesterday, right? And the ref wouldn't call it.
Jeez. I mean, this can't be a good conversation for me since you got beat 15-0.
So, it was, like I said, it was alumni night, and there was about 100 Missouri Tiger Wrestling alumni in the house, and there were a few that had some adult beverages before the match, and I know it was really getting under Jay Jagger's skin. So some of the stupid stuff he said. But the funniest one that and I'm pretty sure the whole Ohio State bench laughed, even though they didn't want to at this. So Korth keeps grabbing fingers, and the whole alumni section is yelling, "That's stalling, he can't do that." And one of the more inebriated of the crew yells, "Korth, that's not a donut, that's his hand that you keep trying to grab."
Oh, God. God.
And the whole Ohio State bench started laughing.
You're killing me, Ben. So I gotta say this. Last year the Tigers came to Columbus, and I think your boy at 25, I forget his name, Broomstick. Waters, Broomstick. Tomasello. It's just a happy, fun little dual meet for your Tigers then, and we ended up triumphing in the end as a national championship. So if anything, if there's a silver lining in this loss yesterday, it's that the Buckeyes are repeating what they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, and that was actually that match that you talked about, was a big one. And then it re-happened in the semifinals, and that was a huge, the Buckeyes versus Tigers had 2 swing matches last year. Waters versus Tomasello, and then Cox versus Snyder. And in the semis, they both go Ohio State's way. But if those both go Missouri's way, we might have a different national title, next year. So that was
big matches, big matches,
huge. So
Cox and Snyder did not wrestle in the dual meet, though, correct?
They did not, because they bumped Cox up to wrestle Tavanello, and he beat Tavanello, and then whoever wrestled Snyder only lost the decision. I can't remember. They had a few extra.
So it paid off.
It paid off. It helped him win the duel. So the only thing I got before Daniel calls in, and if this guy ditches again, I just talked to him 20 minutes ago, so I don't think they ditches. But the UFC, man, I was not on the McGregor bandwagon by any sense of the imagination. I thought he was hand-fed opponents. I thought the UFC was giving him this favoritism, this huge push. But I gotta say, after he backed up what he was talking about, I don't know if I'm totally on the bandwagon, but I'm kind of thinking about saying this guy's all right. What are you on the Conor McGregor bandwagon, Tom?
I was on the bandwagon. I mean, he's a cash cow for the UFC. So for you to think that he's been hand fed some fights and things like that.
I know for a fact he was
right. I mean, I guess I don't really, I don't follow the sport closely enough to really have a comment on that, but I can see the logic there. But this guy, I do believe, I've watched a lot of documentary type videos of him on YouTube and things like that. And he seems like he trains like a madman, Ben. I don't think it's an act how committed he is to the sport. And yeah, I mean, I guess I thought Aldo was going to win. I mean, he hadn't lost in over 10 years. He comes across to me as a consummate professional, extremely talented, skilled, all that stuff. So I had a bet on Aldo. Actually, I had a buddy out in Vegas. I told him to put $100 on Aldo for me. Ooh. And that didn't pay off. But yeah, I mean, Conor McGregor, he puts up or shuts up every time out. He's the guy. I mean, you can't argue anymore. I mean, it's just you can't argue your way out of it. He deserves to be in the spot that he's in.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll give him credit where credit is due. He talked about it. He did it. It was all good. And then, the co-main kind of got not quite as much billing as I feel it should. But, man, Weidman versus Rockhold.
Mainly due to the promotional ability of Conor.
Yeah, exactly. But Weidman Rockhold was what I thought it was going to be an awesome fight. And, man, it was an awesome fight. And really, I thought I didn't know who to pick. I picked Rockhold, but I was kind of thought I was wrong. And he kind of gave it to Weidman, and I was shocked. I don't know what you felt about that fight, but that was Weidman's first career loss. He looked like a stud, and he got it taken to him.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I did get the chance to meet Luke Rockhold about a year ago. And I know he trains at AKA with Daniel and Kane and a good coaching staff with Bob Cook and Javier, and Dwayne Zinkin's a great I guess mentor. And anyways, I was a little bit surprised, but also I know that Rockhold's a professional, so
yeah, no doubt. And the other big wrestling tie-in on last night's card was one of the few actual world class, because that term is very overused in the sport of mixed martial arts, whether you're talking about wrestling,
no doubt about it, no doubt about it.
But
do we have Daniel?
No, I called him to see what he's doing. Listen, this dude, he's in trouble because I texted him less than an hour ago and I said, "You ready to go?" And he said, "Yeah, all good." So who knows? We'll see if we can get him on the line. I'm going to shake him down if we can. But it was Yoel Romero, which, that was a wild fight. It was kind of back and forth. A lot of people thought it was the wrong decision. I had Romero, and I thought it could have went to a draw because the first round was so dominant by Romero. It took him down, just beat him up hard. I'm sorry, he didn't take him down. He knocked him down with a spinning back fist, beat him up, and when Jacare got up at the end of the first round, he could barely make it to his corner. His cornerman had to come over and assist him. They had to assist him to the corner. So, so now this is another world class wrestler who's, Henry being one. We've talked about him before, but another world class wrestler who's right on the brink of a UFC title shot.
That's right. And so, do you think he's got the next shot?
I would have to say so. They got Vitor and Anderson booked down in Brazil in March. I can't see him giving Weidman a rematch at this point. I think, I think that it was a fairly dominant performance by Rockhold. So, I wouldn't give him a rematch. I'm not a huge fan of the quick rematches. I actually think it kind of screws people sometimes because, a situation like, for example, Kane versus JDS where, Kane beat him the last two. If Kane were to remain the champ, then Junior Dos Santos is screwed because he's already got beat up twice. And another situation like that is Mighty Mouse versus Joe Benavidez. Joe Benavidez is an outstanding fighter, but he's stuck in a situation where he's already lost a champion twice. Who wants to give him a third shot? So, sometimes it's maybe give Weidman a little bit easier fight. Give him a number 6, give him a number 7, give him someone down the rankings a little bit, and
get some build up too for for him getting back on top.
Yeah, exactly. And if McGregor is to stay at 45, that's what I would do with Aldo too. I would do what they did for McGregor to Aldo. I'd give Aldo a 6, 7, 8, 9, someone who's not a wrestler, going to be an easy fight, and let Aldo go back in there and remind everyone how good he is and how dominant he is, and get some highlight reel footage. In the meantime, Conor can fight Frankie, which is a fight everyone wants to see anyways. And if they both win, like everyone thinks they're going to, they fight again, and it's another huge pay-per-view. But man, I think if you throw Aldo back in there right now, I think a lot of people will say, why? He got knocked out in 13 seconds. Who wants to see that again? I mean, that's the honest reaction I think a lot of people will have for it.
I don't think they're going to do it because Aldo can beat McGregor, and they want to keep this run with McGregor running as long as possible. So it'll be interesting to see who they give him.
Yeah, definitely. So, and then obviously there's the talk that he's going to move up to 55, and no doubt he looked like total crap at the weigh-in.
At least he makes the weight, Ben.
He made weight.
He makes the weight, doesn't he, brother?
Consummate professional, which he should be. But, listen, Tommy, in our sport, you don't make weight, you don't wrestle, right? It's as simple as that. We know that. We've known that since we were
missed
kids.
weight one time in my life.
Really? When?
So it was my junior year of high school, and I wrestled 160 my sophomore year. And I thought I was going to go 71, and we had an all-star meet to start the season off in Columbus.
Yeah.
And they gave you a 5-pound allowance for 171, so I had to weigh 76, and I didn't make it.
Dang.
And I guess I just thought we just thought I could make it, and it caught me. I probably caught me sleeping a little bit, and it got down to the last day, and I couldn't get the weight off the last hour away. And it was probably foolish. I probably could have made 176 easily. But what it told me is why am I going to go 71? So I went 89 the rest of the year. But man, just embarrassing. I wish I could have a perfect record on weigh-ins, but
yeah, and
it's embarrassing.
I have never missed weight, but it might have an asterisk. I'll tell you my one where I'm not counting it as a miss. I don't care what you say. When I was a freshman, I wrestled state at 119, and I blew up after it. Like maybe 140. It's one of those where I was kind of holding my weight down all season, and then all of a sudden, I got huge. I'd never been anywhere close to that before.
Right.
There's a tournament in Michigan, and the weight classes were 125 or 139, and I was weighing about 140 to 142 somewhere in there. And I said, well, 39, that's nothing. I kind of got chunky. I'm going to try to make 25. And I got down to 131, and I was so freaking miserable. And it wasn't like it was a national tournament. It was, it was a big regional tournament.
Right.
Tough one, but I just said, screw it. I'm going to wrestle 139. So I did not miss weight, but...
you decided to go up.
So I think this might be Daniel calling in. Hold on. Let me
Okay. Got it.
add him. Hello? Hello?
Hey.
We got him. What's up, DC?
What's up, boys?
Daniel's Tommy.
Am I on the podcast?
You are on the pod. We're not editing this. You're on right now.
You're eating
I've
something
made it.
right now, aren't you, Daniel?
I'm eating Reese's Bean Peanut Butter Cups. I think I should stop.
Or is
listen.
it cake and chicken?
Hey, I'm 10 minutes late.
Yeah,
but if I had a friend that refused to give the call-in number, I would be more upset at my friend than the guest, Tommy.
What?
Because my friend, the funky one, only texted me the call-in number 10 minutes ago.
Oh, what?
And I was supposed to be on a week ago. I was supposed to be on a week ago, and I just got the call-in number.
We thought you were going to stand us up twice, DC.
Wait, listen, DC. Let me just tell you this. What you're trying to do right now, I actually have it on my list of things to talk to you about. Is how you are probably the biggest instigator of anybody I know. I mean, you just go try to shake things up no matter where you're at.
Hey, T-Row, as I've called you for the last 10 years that I've known you.
That's right.
Anytime listen, Tommy and I have individual nicknames.
Yeah,
he
right.
might be the first guy to ever call me DC, Ben, so you cannot infiltrate our relationship.
Wow.
Don't worry. He
right.
trusts me more than you, bud.
I know, but listen, it's not a secret. If Tommy knows you, he knows you're an instigator. I mean, my goodness.
I've been a part of some instigating events with Daniel.
Okay.
Let me tell you something, Tommy. I wear that hat with pride.
So let's just hit it right away. You were in the ring with Rockhold last night. I mean, you guys at AKA, you seem close. You seem kind of like it feels like a college wrestling team to me, which I don't have that feeling with a lot of other gyms. When I watch the way they interact, what do you think that is? Well, why is that like that?
Ben, you've actually been there, so you've trained with us, and you know, like how intense the training is, and how certain guys are always there. It's very difficult when you have a big gym like ours to have a consistent 35, 40, 50, 60 people. Like at American Top Team, they say all these guys are on their team, but there's no way that 100 guys are there daily. We have a group of guys that are there daily, and you build relationships with those guys, and man, it's like wrestling. When you're wrestling, Tommy, every day you got to practice, Bergman was going to be there. You knew you didn't have to worry about Bergman being there. Ben, you knew Tyron was going to be there, and that's how it is with us at AKA. So you build that relationship, and then you become friends and brothers.
Yeah. It seems like you guys, and I'm just an outsider in the MMA world, but it seems like compared to these other gyms or clubs or whatever you want to call them, the folks at AKA, you guys actually train. Like you train consistently. There's like a regimented plan and process that we're all accustomed to in wrestling, and it seems like you guys really put in the time.
Tommy, like obviously in between fights there are breaks, but since I fought, I've been home a lot. I've been home 6 out of the 8 weeks since the fight. So the vast majority of the days, even though I'm not fighting, I'm there to try to spar with Luke and get him prepared. So between 12 and 2, I know what my time belongs to. It belongs at the gym. Nice. In 7 to 8, I know I'm supposed to be doing something. It may not be as much of a group focus like the 12 o'clock practice, but I do know that at that time, whether or not I'm coming, I'll come across Luke Rockhold, I'll come across Cain Velasquez, I'll come across Khabib. I'll come across those same guys that are always there. So it's regimented, man. It's 12 to 2 is always what it is, and then in the evenings on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we all train from 7 to 8. Nice.
That's awesome.
So now that Luke's here, since he's a world champ, can you still pick on him and treat him like your little brother, or is he going to stand up to you now? He's going to say, I'm a world champ, DC.
He'll stand up to me. He's always stood up to me. Let me tell you one thing about Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold has never had a problem expressing his feelings or with confidence. The guy's always been confident, so it didn't matter if I got the belt before him or if he never got the belt. He was always going to stand up for himself.
I got to meet Rockhold in the airport, Daniel, when I came to watch your fight with some customers of mine in my day job against John Bones Jones. My wife and I were out there, and I got to meet him in the airport. He just seems like a great guy. To your point, he's always talking, but he also is pretty humble. He's a very respectful guy. Seems like he works real hard. And he's also, my wife indicates that he's easy on the eyes, so something tells me he's got some staying power at the top here.
Oh, let me tell you something, man. For everything that he is, unbelievable athlete, great fighter. It's like he's the all-American kid with the movie star looks, and that's going to help him. If I need him to talk to Ben Askren a little bit to just develop a little bit of his personality in the public. Like when it's private and it's just like us hanging out, he's great. Yeah. But in the public, he seems to get a little nervous and He doesn't express himself as well as he does just in his day-to-day life, you know. So it comes off as a little awkward. But when you can fight like that and you look like that, maybe you don't need to be able to talk all that much.
Hey, let's change gears here. I have this thing written down, and I can't remember who told me, and I can't even tell you if it's true, Daniel. But and I've been wondering, I've been meaning to ask you, I just forgot, but we got you on the show now, so why not? Someone told me that for 6 years of when you were on the senior level, that you did not lose even a period to another American. So is it true, false? Where are we at on that one?
Between I think I made the team from 2003 until 2008, but I've lost periods. I lost a match to Dean Morrison in the 2003 trials. I lost the first match to Dean Morrison, and then I lost a period to I think I lost a period to Nick Preston once. Nick Preston might have beat me one round.
He could never beat Tommy.
Go Bucks. Well, I'll tell you, Daniel and I.
Tommy never got me. Tommy never got me. Hey, Tommy never got me. So this is the thing about wrestling. Let me be honest. No disrespect to Nick Preston, but this is the thing about wrestling Nick Preston. You don't expect him to be as good as he is. When you're wrestling the Tommy Rowlands, your game is 100% locked in. So I think the fact that I was always on my game against Tommy is more of a compliment to Tommy than anything else.
Okay,
I appreciate that. Daniel was tough to wrestle. He had that left leg lead and a lefty high C and some good in and out movement. It was tough for me. But I will say this, Ben. One thing that's pretty cool that Daniel and I share, and I wish I was on the winning end of it, but it's still a cool statistic. Daniel and I are the only two Americans to ever wrestle in the finals of a tournament on Russian soil.
Ooh, what?
Oh yeah, hey, that was intense because Tommy wrestled. That was the time, honestly, where
Kazumov in the semis.
He beat him, and I was like, wow, this kid's turned the corner. Because in 2004, Tommy you hadn't even gone down to 211 yet, had you?
No, I graduated in the spring of 2004, and I went down to 211, and I lost a hard tongue 2-2 refs decision in the Olympic trial finals, and then Daniel kind of mopped up hard tongue.
Oh, yeah, he went to 211 right away, and then he lost to Tim. And right in 2005, January, went to Krasnoyarsk. Tommy wrestled such a great tournament. I was like, oh, my goodness, Tommy Rowlands has turned the corner. He was like, I knew he would be a problem. That was a very competitive match, too. That was a really, really hard one. That was a hard one for me when we wrestled in the U.S. National Finals in 2005. It was very, very tough, too. That was a very, very close match.
Okay, well, what about practice match?
Wait, let me stop.
What?
Stop for a second. Before we go forward, I would like to give a shout-out to my guy, Cade, the Animal Brock. Listen, today came out of red shirt and pinned the national champion, defending national champion Brewer from OU. I coached that kid when he started at 5 years old.
So he's a Stillwater.
Me and Jamil Kelly. He started with Jamil and I. And to watch him and Joseph right now as freshmen in college, one, we're getting very old. But two, from the day that boy walked onto a wrestling mat, he was a stud. And then today, pinned the defending national champion in the very first round. So, Cade Brock, what's up, buddy? I'm over here fighting in the UFC, but still keeping my eye on my boys.
So if you're John Smith right now, are you pulling JoJo out of red shirt, or are you waiting? Because Tommy, we already gave our opinions on this one. What are you doing?
Okay, so this is the question. For JoJo, all right, for JoJo. You have to view him as another athlete, not as his father.
Of course.
As a father, you know that it'll be difficult for Joe to win the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Does he have the ability to? Yes. But it's difficult as a true freshman.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
But as a coach, you think this kid's points, because he'll All-American. He'll All-American because he's too good not to. As a coach, you go, this kid's points may get me another national championship, which we haven't won for a really long time. So, and the problem with that is that you know that Penn State is reloading to the point that this might be the year before they go on another run of 4 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, if this
I pull him. I pull him and I take my shot right now.
I think so.
I pull him and I take my shot right now. What do you think, Tommy? What did you guys come to?
I think I'd pull him. I think if John Smith feels like the team can win the national championship with his son in the lineup, he should pull him, and I think he will.
I think he will too. And I said I'd wait till the scuffle. I said I'm gonna wrestle him at the scuffle, see how he does, and then we can go from there.
Hey, so what happened to that kid though?
What kid?
What happened to Marcel? Is he cut too much weight? Like, what happened?
I think that's what's. I think it's got to be the weight. I think it has to be because
I
he was
think
good
it's
at
the weight.
65.
Such a stud. I mean, when he decommitted from Penn State and went to Oklahoma State, there were parties in the street of San Jose because I was leading the charge. But my goodness, what is going on with this guy?
Yeah. I think they sit him on the bench and just say, listen, kid, take the next couple months off. We're going to need you next year. Derringer's going to graduate. We're going to have a hole at 65. Put JoJo in. Let JoJo get it done and call it a day.
I think you sit him. Let him recover because the one thing that's going to happen with Marcel is you're going to have to kind of rebuild his confidence a little bit now because he has taken it on the chin.
Yep.
He's not going to be the same kid right away because he's taking it on the chin.
That's no joke at all. But your Cowboys 30 what? 39-3 or 37-3 over Oklahoma today? That's got to feel good, right?
Smash these dudes. I mean, just straight smashed them. It's a rivalry in the word, but in terms of competition on the match, it hasn't necessarily been a rivalry. I mean, I'm looking at OKState.com right now. I opened my computer, and you know what's right up there? Cade Brock. Pinning him in the new Oklahoma State singlet. We've gone away from wearing the straight orange every match.
Right now.
Huh?
He's on the cover of FloWrestling right now on the website.
I mean, let me tell you something. 37-3, that's a beating.
No. Hey, so I want to ask you, Daniel, one of my favorite people in wrestling, and he wasn't always, because for a while he was an enemy, John Smith. Obviously the best American wrestler of all time. I think there's no doubt about that. But, man, give us an inside story, because I've heard some stories from you, just some hilarious stories that the public doesn't get to hear about John. Give us one, can you?
God, there's so many.
Okay, the one I remember that was so memorable for me, I still remember, I don't know how long ago you told it. You were saying that, you go lose international, and John would just be like, why'd you lose? Like he was so good that he didn't understand losing. Like, he didn't get it.
No. When I wrestled Hidari in the first round of World Championships in 2006, I think, I made the weight, and I was struggling. I always struggled so hard to make 211, which was me just being not disciplined. Like, now as I'm making 205, there was no reason for me to be struggling as much as I was making 211. But when I walked into the back, they have those staging areas at the World Championship, and John looked at me and goes, we didn't come here to make weight. Now you go out there and you compete and win this match. And I lost. And for the life of John, like, every time we lost, he couldn't comprehend it. Like, it was so difficult to comprehend. Like, I see you working. I see you working. I see you training. Why are you struggling so much to get the job done? So I don't understand. He didn't understand how we couldn't get the job done. He couldn't understand why we wouldn't get out of our own way in terms of just allowing ourselves to compete. And, again, that's just because he was so good.
Just a one-track mind.
Damn.
I mean, success was all he really knew.
Yeah.
John has gotten a lot better from when I first went to Oklahoma State in 1999 to how he interacts with his athletes today. He's gotten better. I mean, even now when I talk to John, I can see a difference. There's a difference in John when him and I are on the phone. As he's gotten older, he's more. He seems more like open. He seems more like, I don't know. It's just like it's like he has an idea now. It's like John discovered the word empathy, where he understands what other people go through.
Daniel, how often do you stay in communication with John?
John calls me and texts me before every fight, and then after the fight, he calls and talks to me.
For you.
Oh, it's great. I love it so much. And then we have personal conversations afterwards, financial conversations. about my family. And he's one of my mentors, and it'll never change, So when he calls me and he's giving me financial advice, because John's seen me do well financially, he's seen me struggle financially.
Right.
So seeing it today, at the point that I am today, a point that is very difficult to reach in wrestling.
Right.
He wants to make sure that I know that this is the time to secure not only myself, my family, my kids, and my future for Selena and Daniel and Marquita.
Nice. So okay, one rumor about John Smith. I want to get this and see what you know about it. Okay, DC.
Yep.
So I heard that way back in 1984, John Smith was in a pool hall, and he was playing a game of pool against this woman, and she said, "John Smith, if I make this 8-ball, you're gonna have me a baby," and that was Johnny Hendricks.
You see, I cannot say I'm not partaking in this, Ben. I don't understand why you insist on giving the old boy Hendricks such a hard time. Leave the kid alone.
Compliment. He's John Smith's son. What do you think?
No, you're taking a dig at Johnny Hendricks. You're trying to call him a kid made in the pool hall. You see, this is what you do, Askren. And you say I'm the biggest instigator in the world. Askren, come on. You can't trick me into shitting on Johnny Hendricks.
No, so he was not. He is not John Smith's legitimate child, is what you're telling me.
No, he's not John's kid. You see Johnny's dad, Askren. Come on. I'm going to tell him that, Ben, and then you're going to have to go face-to-face with Johnny.
I've been waiting to go face-to-face with him for years. Damn it all. Ain't never going to happen, but, we can dream. All right, one last thing, Daniel. So, we talk a little bit about the financial side of stuff. Kind of what you're talking about how tough it is for senior level wrestling athletes to make it, and kind of, obviously my viewpoint is that we need a professional league. So you've been on both sides of the coin, and I remember, man, it must have been 2009. You were living with Bob Cook. I stopped by to visit, AKA. I think you were sleeping on his couch. And I remember driving around. You were about to fight Singing Gary Frazier. Right? And so you didn't know what your MMA career was going to be. So you've been on top of the wrestling world, and now you've been on top of the MMA world. Would you, if you could give advice right now to, say, a couple kids graduating college, would you encourage more wrestlers to go directly in MMA, or would you say go have a senior level career? Where do you fall on that spectrum?
All right, here we go. And I'm very passionate about this, as is Dwayne Zinkin. You and I's manager, so that's my disclaimer. So Dwayne Zinkin manages Ben and I. So you're right. I stayed on Bob's floor on a mattress. Sometimes we slept on the couch. It was dependent on who was in the house at the time. Phil Davis slept in the nook downstairs under the stairwell. Wow. LeVar Johnson was there at times. Luke Rocco stayed in the garage on the ground. It didn't even have carpet or anything. It was dirt. It was Luke's bed on a whole bunch of crates. And in the dirt and the TV and stuff. So we all stayed in Bob's house. So I was lucky if I got the bedroom upstairs because no one else was around before I got there. But as I move into the tail end of my career, I'm 36 years old, and all the blessings that I've had, like financially, when I look at the kids that are wrestling, I think financially you're going to make money if you're going to do MMA. But the highest level guys, I don't want to see him start fighting right away. Right as Jordan Burroughs was graduating college, everybody was like, this kid can be the next George St. Pierre. We need to see this dude fighting. The only thing I wanted was to not see him fighting. All I wanted to see was that kid competing for world championships and Olympic championships, and he's won both. But other guys that are hanging around 5, 6, 4, you have a chance, man. You have a chance to become, honestly, a millionaire if you do it the correct way. So those guys that are hanging around 5, 6, 7, I would encourage them to see their wrestling career through. But if it doesn't work out, give it a shot. We just signed Zinc Entertainment just signed Deron Wynn, who I think is going to be an amazing fighter. I mean, his attitude towards fighting, his explosiveness, his wrestling style. We've had him in the gym a couple times, and Deron has a natural knack for throwing and landing punches. But guys like Deron, who's been fourth in the country before and is going to try and make an Olympic team next year. Hopefully he does. If he doesn't, MMA is the route to go for him, and I think he's going to be very successful. But again, it all depends on who you are. But you know what, man? Because we love wrestling so much, Ben and Tommy, you know we've done it for so long for nothing. I say live that dream, man, because once you walk away from it, you can't really go back. I try wrestling these kids that wrestle competitively now, and they beat the shit out of me. It's ridiculous.
Well, you can't embarrass yourself that much because Tommy last week told a story about how bad Snyder beat him up. So
that was ugly, DC.
Dude,
I wrestled him 6
got
or
a
7
question
weeks ago. It was bad.
Tommy, Jamil Kelly goes, you think you could beat Kyle Snyder? I go, no. I said, no. He goes, not now. I mean, when you're in your prime. No. He won, I didn't. Obviously, the dude's better than me. You try to rub it in? The dude's trying to rub it in his up. I'm like, no, I can't beat this dude. But it's like, these dudes are nuts. They're so much better now, so much younger. Because of the level of coaching they're getting as kids, it's ridiculous.
It is incredible. He is an incredible athlete.
Is he strong, Tommy?
Really strong, DC.
I look
really
at him,
strong.
Tommy, and I'm like, man, this kid looks so strong.
You know, it's amazing that he's 20 years old and he doesn't make any stupid decisions in the match. You know, I mean, I don't think I've ever wrestled as smart as he wrestles in my whole career. He's just a very intelligent wrestler. He doesn't make any mistakes, and he capitalizes on yours. And then to your point, I mean, he's got all the physical gifts and trains like a madman. And he is the best in the world.
Tell me, how was it? How was the match?
Oh, Josh.
You don't have to tell it again, Tommy. You don't have to do it.
Let's just. It wasn't really close, DC.
Tommy wasn't going 100%.
In fairness, you know, I thought we were gonna drill. I'm not in shape anymore, DC, at all. And I thought we were gonna drill, so we drilled for 40 minutes. And he goes, "You want to wrestle?" I'm like, "Man, I'm already exhausted from this drill." So I told him next time we wrestle, we'll do a match and then we'll drill. But in any case, it was ugly, man. We'll just leave it at that.
Hey, Tommy, I got to be honest with you. Duran was at the gym, right? Duran, you know, he's been on a national team, but you know, he's not the number one guy. And he's short, man. And you know, one of my biggest attributes was holding good position. I was very good at not giving a. Man, he double legs me across the room, and I'm all embarrassed because every time he's in the gym, he's taking me down, and nobody does that. Like, Velasquez will get takedowns on me, but nobody sees anyone just pick me up and throw me across the room. And this dude is 5'5", throwing me around. And I'm trying hard too, Tommy. I'm trying hard. I'm eating a good breakfast. Tom, I'm sleeping good the night before, knowing that wrestling's on Tuesday, Ben. I'm trying hard, Ben.
Hey, DC, one last thing before we let you go. But Ben and I have brought it up before, and I think we brought it up earlier in the show. But it's amazing in MMA how much the announcers and everybody says the term world-class wrestlers when they're referring to some of these guys. I mean, have you ever just you know said, let me explain to you guys the difference between world class and not world class?
I've talked to him, but there's a difference now, Tommy. As you see before, they were calling guys like Josh Koscheck and guys like that world class, and Josh Koscheck is a phenomenal wrestler.
Absolutely.
But before it was world NCAA champions. It was NCAA All-Americans. These guys were considered world-class. Tyron Woodley, if Tyron Woodley would have fought back in 2007 and 8, he would be called a world-class wrestler. You don't see those guys dropping that as much anymore because now you're seeing Olympians inside of the octagon. You're seeing Ben. You're seeing guys like me. You're seeing Romero, Henry Cejudo. So I think as guys like that start to go into mixed martial arts, the term is not used as loosely as it was before.
So it's getting better.
There's a difference. I tell them all the time. They try to goad me into going, well, who's the best wrestler ever in the UFC? I go, well, Yoel Romero. And they're like, what about Henry? I go, well, Henry won the Olympics, but Yoel was world champ, Olympic silver medalist, multiple. Yoel could have probably won the worlds, you know, multiple times. We know the story on how that goes sometimes. Those Cubans.
Instead, he got like 5 silvers
and exactly.
A bunch of paychecks.
And a bunch of paychecks. So I'm like, well, Yoel Romero could be a multiple-time world champion. I go, but Henry Cejudo next, Olympic champ. They're like, well, where would you fit in there? But they always try to goad me into to saying that stuff. But in reality, man, now it's a higher level than they're used to seeing.
Right.
Well, all right, DC, you got anything to close us out with, or what?
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me. You know, I always love doing anything that has anything to do with wrestling. You know, this sport has given me so much, my education, the ability to train and compete, and now it's going to secure a future for my family and my children. So anytime, anything to do with wrestling, I'm all in, man. We compete in the greatest sport known to man.
Well, if Missouri beats up on Oklahoma State in the duel this year, we will have you back on the next day. And if they don't, we'll just
pause. Not happening.
We'll see. We'll see, baby. All right, man.
All right, boys.
All right, DC,
Tommy,
thanks a lot, brother.
nice talking to you, young man. Bye, guys.
See ya.
See you.
All right. Wow, that was fun, Tommy. So
Always a good interview with Daniel Cormier.
always good, always funny. A lot of good stuff there. He didn't like my John Smith pool joke. That was a joke that one of my assistant coaches at Missouri had because they look similar. That's the thing.
They do look extremely similar.
All right.
Extremely similar.
I'm gonna text Martin, tell him to call in right now, and we're gonna change. That was kind of a fun interview. We had
This is a
fun.
huge bonus round show,
round.
man. I mean, we might have to split this up depending on how long we talk to Martin.
All right. So Martin, I just told him to call in. So we are going to talk. Which Tommy's more educated in this than I am. So I'm gonna let him take the lead once Martin gets on. We are going to talk to Martin about the NWCA, OPC, track wrestling, flow wrestling, all this stuff.
We're going to try to go down in the weeds and offer, I guess, a layman's explanation of flow wrestling's rift with the NWCA and the software systems and what have you.
All right, Martin, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's up, man?
How you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Good, man. This is Tommy, Martin. Haven't spoken to you in a while, but thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate having you.
Yeah, I hear you guys had Cormier on. That guy can talk.
Yeah, he was funny.
We're hoping that you can provide a little bit more color than Daniel does. We're counting on you for that.
So did you watch the fights last night or no?
No, I didn't get a chance to see him.
Okay. How about you watch Missouri beat up on Ohio State last night?
Oh boy, it's just never ending.
I was checking that out.
Okay, I did try to shake up one of your employees, Christian Piles, this week. I started this hashtag FireCP campaign to shake him up a little bit about the rankings.
Oh yeah, what do you not like? Oh,
I just got under his feathers a little bit. We Tommy and I talked about
CP's he's a little sensitive, Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy is uber intelligent. He does a great job for Flow. But I think Ben got into his head a little bit. Had to pay CP some rent for how he was hanging out in there so much.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the first time Ben got in someone's head. But Christian is if you try to sit down and have a discussion with him, you actually find out there's reasons upon reasons upon reasons why certain teams are ranked where they are, or certain individuals. So you got some pretty good logic around it, because I've challenged him a couple times, and I'm no expert at that type of stuff, but I came away kind of feeling, okay, he's got a good reason for why he's doing it.
Okay.
No doubt.
Well,
So I guess
I'll
I'll start off here. I guess for those of you, and I think everybody who's in the wrestling circles in an intimate way knows the name Martin Floreani. But for those of you who are not aware, Martin's the founder of Flowcast, aka Flow Wrestling, and Ben, I think you'll agree probably one of the most instrumental things in why our wrestling community is so connected over the past 10 or 12 years is Flow Wrestling. So
100%.
It's great to have Martin on. Martin, you've been an inspiration for all of us. I remember when you were driving around in a van, staying the night at whoever's house you could stay at, and now Flow Wrestling is what it is to the wrestling world. And actually our podcast is streamed or whatever you want to call it on your website. Not that that's not that that's the best part about Flow Wrestling, but just
come on, it is.
Well,
it's the highlight of the viewer's week.
But just the overall,
it's typical.
Yeah, it's just the overall connectivity and the way that our sport is able to take, a niche sport that really didn't get a whole lot of attention, but there was a lot of, underground fervor for the sport, millions of fans worldwide. And I feel like FloWrestling has really brought all of us together over the past 10 or 12 years. So it's great to have you on the show. You're a guy that really is a great visionary. And I think because of the fact that you're such a great visionary might be the reason that there is a potential rift or discrepancy or issue that you might have with going on in the NWCA. And if you let me, Martin, I guess I'll just take the next 2 or 3 minutes and try to explain to our viewers what I believe is the situation and how it's came about. And then you can fill in the blanks for me, because by no means am I an expert on the scenario. But I think we wanted to dive deep on the fact that the NWCA created something that's called an Optimal Performance Calculator, the OPC, and it's a portal for data, whether it be weigh-ins, results, names, for the youth, high school, and collegiate level. And the NWCA is the National Wrestling Collegiate Coaches Association, and they tried to do this for a number of years and didn't do it well, perhaps at a financial loss to the organization, and the results and all of the information was not necessarily consolidated in an appropriate way. In an effort to do this, they partnered with Track Wrestling prior to FloWrestling being in the software event type business. They were in the web streaming business. And so they partnered with Track Wrestling, and Track Wrestling developed the software. It became a much more successful venture, better information, and it became a revenue stream or a profit center for both Track Wrestling and the NWCA. And the situation we're in right now is that the NWCA, who is a non-for-profit organization and it governs itself based on the fact that they're supposed to benefit the sport of wrestling in every way, shape, or form, have now exclusively partnered with Track Wrestling in a way that FloWrestling believes is possibly anti-competitive and not necessarily what is best for the sport of wrestling. And I guess that's the way that you view it. I guess I'll stop there, Martin. And if I didn't say anything correctly, please fill in the blanks. I'm just trying to kind of get the ball rolling.
Let me just tweak a couple things. First off, I think the NWCA in general does good work. To state that at the beginning, I believe that they do good work. But and I'm not. I'd say the NWCA can partner with Track Wrestling. I mean, they can partner with Track Wrestling in an exclusive manner. What frustrated our team, and what we really hope the NWCA will change, is the OPC is a good thing. The OPC was generated because, I don't know if you guys remember, but there were some deaths in the late 90s in wrestling, and the NWCA came in and said, hey, we got to do something about this. They created the OPC, Optimum Performance Calculator, and essentially it regulated kids' weight so they wouldn't cut so much weight. A great thing, right? I mean, weight cutting, we can all agree, was not healthy. It was not good, and it isn't good. I mean, the less weight cutting, I think our sport will be better. And so they did a good thing by creating this Optimum Performance Calculator. My real issue is closing it off so other people can't enter results into it. The NWCA can partner with Track Wrestling. That is all well and good. But this OPC should be open to other companies uploading their results to it. Because if the NWCA goes into a state and sells that state on the OPC, they're mandating that everybody should enter results into the OPC. And if a simple API where you can't just shoot all your tournament results over to the OPC isn't created, and if that isn't created, then it puts a significant burden on everybody else to put those results into an OPC, right? And so that's really the issue. It's not that NWCA is partnering exclusively with Track Wrestling. That's good. All those things are fine. We just want an open system that companies can upload those results to. And if they do that, what that happens is it allows companies to compete in the software space. And as we all know, competition is an awesome thing. Competition drives innovation. right? And so that's where that's our current disagreement on it. And I'm interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. I mean, you guys have done a little bit of research, Tommy, and
I've done a
what are
little
your guys'
research.
thoughts?
I've done a little research, and it's not. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on the subject, but they're more. I more have questions, and we've invited Mike Moyer to be on the show as well. Didn't invite him until a few hours ago, so maybe we'll talk to him at some point over the next few weeks. But my question is that did Track Wrestling develop the proprietary system where this information can be entered freely throughout the national wrestling community? Is it significant, intellectual property that Track Wrestling developed to where if NWCA made it open, they'd basically be taking Track Wrestling's hard work and making it available to their competition? Am I understanding that correctly, or is that something that might be an issue for, if I was Track Wrestling and I spent tens of thousands of dollars developing this, I certainly wouldn't want to give it up to my competition without a fee or something of that nature.
Sure. Yeah, I think the NWCA can make more money by opening it up.
Right.
We're willing to pay a fee. We're willing to put, whatever development fair due, put price tag on it. Let's do that.
So if there was like a fair pay to play entry fee, so to speak, by all these software companies, no more or less than what Track Wrestling would pay, or FloArena, or some of these other software companies. I can't think of the names. So if they're, so let's say they pay a pay to play annual fee of let's call it $10,000 for round numbers purposes. So you got 6 software companies paying $10,000 to be a part of the open network system, and then they pay
absolutely.
And then they pay. So that's something that that you think.
Yeah, we hey, time is money, and putting those resources in and developing that, that's worth something. Now, let's not pretend it's something that's someone couldn't repeat or do with enough time and energy. And I'm sure there's been effort in that, so we're willing to pay our fair share on that. Absolutely,
right,
100%.
And I wasn't even asking that question facetiously, because I don't even know. For all I know, this software took 5 years to develop, or maybe it takes one night for some software guy. I'm not sure. But I'm just trying to understand why the NWCA wouldn't do this. I'm trying to find, reasons as to why they wouldn't.
It's funny. They have a rule in college wrestling where they have to, right? And so college wrestling, there is actually an API that allows it to work, and that's because the NCAA requires it, right? And so there is that.
So yeah, Martin, can you explain that a little bit slower, because I just want to understand. So at the collegiate level, there is an open network where you guys can participate in what you're talking about.
Yeah, so there is an API. It's a little funky, but there's an API that is significantly better than what exists in the high school. Right,
okay.
And so because there's no regulating body on the high school, just the individual state associations and whatnot, and they're not just, let's just put it, they're not advanced as the NCAA, an individual state wrestling state association, right?
So, Martin, what's the API?
What?
The API.
API is a way for two programs to talk together, right? So if we put an API on the software, it allows our program to talk with their program. So that's
way beyond my pay grade. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'm probably not explaining it right, but basically it allows two programs to talk with each other.
Okay.
So,
and then at the youth level, so at the youth and high school level, this API doesn't exist, which makes Track Wrestling, they basically have the bird in the hand, so to speak, with all of these tournament directors and people who run events nationwide. They have a unique competitive advantage because they have the open network, so to speak, with the NWCA, so the data and everything can flow in. Whereas if they did something with another software company, they're doubling up their workload or not running something as efficiently. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah. Exactly. So, the track will actually sell against this, right? And they'll say, hey, our system's better because it's completely tied into the OPC. And so, and we've had people say, oh, you guys would do this exact same thing if you guys were track wrestling. And I don't put any of this on track wrestling, but
because they're a private business, they're entrepreneurs, they are competing, right?
Yeah, but but we would not do this if I would never do this. And I told this to you, Ben.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, put me in the grave at the first time I can't compete on, just on fair practices, right? Just end me, right? Because that's what I live for. Let's compete. Yeah. Want to compete? Let's compete on innovation. Let's compete on ideas. Let's compete on execution. So I'm for the competition. I think it. But at the same time, I'm not putting this on track. I put this on the NWCA because they're supposed to be the stewardship of throwing wrestling.
Right.
And this is wrestling. You got to think of this. Some people maybe listening to this podcast are thinking, "What's the big deal?" It's just one thing, right? To me, it strikes me as it is a big deal because if this is an interaction that we're dealing with the NWCA, and this is a mentality that's on the NWCA where they're going to create an environment where competition doesn't thrive. Even if you're partners with somebody, even if you're exclusive partners with somebody, let the landscape of wrestling compete, because you don't miss out on the first innovation, you miss out on the 10th innovation, right? Like, what if 10 years ago there was a rule that only certain companies can make, cell phones and interact with the cell phone towers, right? BlackBerry wouldn't even, maybe wouldn't have started. And if BlackBerry didn't start, would we have the iPhone, right? Would we have the Android, right? And so, like, look how much we've come in 15 years, right? So some people might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? It's just one little thing. Well, to me, it's not a little thing, because I see innovation, and I'm seeing 3 or 4 or 5 steps down the line. I'm thinking, okay, we can do this, this, and this, and this. All these different steps that we can take wrestling. And if we can't even get off the ground, or if we have such a headwind because the NWCA signed agreement without thinking of the long-term implications, or whatever the reason was, but we're not willing to change or correct that situation, or they're not willing to change and correct that situation, then, to me, that's just a shame, because you don't miss out on the first innovation. You miss out on the 10th innovation.
Yeah.
You miss out on everything you have now, like the Uber on your cell phone, or just the every single aspect that mobile provides. That's because we have a free and open society, and capitalism works.
And one thing that I know that someone gave me the advice once, or I heard it somewhere, that really stuck with me. And I think it applies very well in this situation, because I obviously I visit Flow nearly daily. I visit Track Wrestling nearly daily also. Is that if you're the only one who's trying to get in that business probably isn't very good, right? If I'm the only person trying to run a wrestling academy, that means probably not a lot of people want to wrestle, right? So,
correct.
Like you were saying, competition's great, and if there's 8 bracketing software companies that want to come into wrestling, that's only going to help wrestling grow, because as people are investing in it, they're investing in the sport essentially, right? If there's only one gear clothing company, if Rudis is the only brand, it's not a good market, right? There needs to be more brands to invest, to have
it's
all
like
that stuff.
Who is Jordan Burroughs if he doesn't have somebody out there walking on the mat against him? I mean, what would he be? And so, I think maybe, Martin, what you're suggesting is that you're all about fair competition, fair play. You like to compete. We know that about you, and you've shown that throughout building your business and in your personal life. So I guess what you're saying is maybe to give you a wrestling equated to, it's like track wrestling's walking out there on the mat, and Flow Wrestling walks out there with its hands tied behind his back because of these restrictions. And the sticking point is that the National Wrestling Coaches Association, in your opinion and mine as well, they should be an unbiased party. They're essentially a governing body, and so they're not entrepreneurs. They're not in private business.
Yeah, they're not a governing body, but they work with governing bodies, and they're an advocate for wrestling. right? Their mission is to grow wrestling at all levels, right? And so, I believe. I've told you guys this many times. I believe wrestling is the most exciting, greatest sport in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And 9 years ago, when I got in the sport, I was shocked that some coaches didn't believe that, right? And it's mind-boggling to me. When I'm at the NCAAs in the semifinal round, I have goosebumps, right? When I'm at the Olympic trials, World Team trials, even U.S. Open, I have goosebumps. I am 100% engaged. I'm engaged because I know the storylines. I'm engaged because I know how hard it is to compete at the highest level. And to me, the sport is just set up perfectly for the 21st century. I mean, it is set up perfectly for mobile. It is set up perfectly for our time. We have so many things going for us. Let's not get in our own way. Let's get out of our own way. Let the companies compete. Let's drive wrestling to a new level where it should be, and we all win. Athletes win.
So you're selling me, Martin. I mean, I'm in. I mean, you got me. I'm feeling the mojo here. So in saying that, when you have discussions or dialogue or correspondence with the NWCA and Mike Moyer, and again, we're hoping to have him on the show as well. But what is the dialogue? Where does the buck stop in a way that because I'm sure if we had Mike Moyer on the show, he'd have a very logical response as to why it's not going the way that you want it to go. And so, in your opinion, where's the logic?
Tommy, this is what I can say. There's a million reasons why you're not going to do something, right? There could be a million reasons why you're not going to do something. But you gotta, if you want to do something, you gotta find the reason to do it and do it, right? And so I can make a million excuses why X, Y, and Z won't happen. But if I'm driven and I want to get to the right place, I'm going to figure out the reason why I need to be there, right? And so the NWCA could say say a bunch of different things. What I'm hoping, Tommy, is that, and I don't think they're bad guys. I don't think that. I wonder, they have an exclusive arrangement with track. I wonder if Mike was thinking, hey man, maybe I can develop this long-term reoccurring revenue stream, and so I don't have to worry about the economics. And so if my world would just be a lot easier if track wrestling were dominant, and I had a relationship with them, and I could count on this reoccurring revenue stream. My guess is he probably has thought that way, and would like to make his world easy by just having track rule the world. But I'm not against the NWCA partnering and benefiting off track wrestling. Just all I'm saying is if we have something like the OPC, which is a good thing that was created for the health of the kids, right? If we're going to have that and we're going to advocate that, let other companies compete, and to me that would be a good thing, and hopefully the NWCA can even make even more money, right? So, but I also want to say this. It's real easy to tear someone down, right? It's really easy to knock somebody else. So, I want to challenge you, Ben, right? Because
let's do it.
you knocked. Okay, so what I look at is the UWW, right? UWW has, for me, if I told you 2 years ago, the UWW would be where it's at today, right?
Yeah.
If I told you 2 or 3 years ago that we'd have a 2-point takedown, right? That we'd have a whole new...
A rolling score, 6-minute match.
Yeah, exactly. We'd have rolling score. We'd have the old leadership completely out. We'd have a complete name change, a new constitution. You'd call me a clown. You'd say, no way. No way.
That's
right?
accurate.
So,
that's accurate.
So... I mean, you want to take hits at UWW. I want to challenge you a little bit. It's like, can we give them their due? Can we say, dang, man, they really improved.
Man, you didn't listen. But no, you didn't listen to my analogy that I gave on the other show.
Yeah, the fire analogy.
Oh my goodness! Listen to Martin, you called me out.
It was horrible.
I said, I admitted they've gotten significantly better, but they were one of the main reasons for the problem, and so
Who's they? The guys that drove the sport into the ground are gone.
No,
right?
not all of them. No, like
see, this is where Ben said that if somebody burnt my house down and they fixed half of it, and we shouldn't be happy with them. Is basically the analogy, right, Ben?
Yeah, that was the analogy. Is that they were the ones who started the fire, and they put it out a little bit, and they rebuilt some of the stuff. But man, I still think they got a long ways to go, and I think there's a lot of improvement to be done. And Martin, I've tried to get you to host your own world championships, and maybe someday I will convince you to do it. And then in that case, I can just make the rules, and everyone can rip on me.
Well, that goes to the next thing, right? Last week on the last show, I heard a little bit like knocking on or some undercurrent to USA Wrestling. I have to say, I deal with a lot of governing bodies across a lot of different sports. And USA Wrestling is one of the best, if not the best, of the governing bodies that I deal with, right? And some people might say, well, Martin, you're just saying that because you're a partner with USA Wrestling. And yeah, I'm a partner with USA Wrestling, and yeah, I'm gonna come out and defend I'm gonna defend my partners when they should be defended, but I'll only defend it if it's the truth. And it's the truth.
Yeah.
For the Olympic governing bodies, they are innovative as hell. And they move, and they listen to suggestions, and they actually act on suggestions. And so when people want to go and tear down, say, USA Wrestling, I think that they it's real easy to say, hey, they need better leadership, right?
Yeah.
But,
I made some concrete suggestions.
Well, suggestions are great, but hey, Ben, here's an example.
Well, I don't have the power, else I would just go do it.
We did FPL.
We did
FPL last year, right? It didn't work, right? I mean, it ended up not working.
Yeah.
I agree. We're not done. We're gonna figure out how to do the next thing. But
it's gonna get figured out,
right?
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't mean that we tried. It didn't work. That doesn't mean we don't have leadership. It doesn't mean that we're not trying to innovate. It's real easy to say, hey, let's give the athletes more money, right? Okay,
Yeah.
how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Figure it out, right? Like even us. I mean, I think I'll try and execute to the best of them, but we couldn't execute FPL effectively, right? So it's not easy. It's real easy. It is real easy though to call someone out, call leadership out, call these different people out, and say, hey, it's real easy for people to do that just in a general say, hey, they stink, or look, wrestling should be so much further. Okay, explain how. Because devil's in detail. When you get into execution, right? It's hard.
I made that video, 5 things I would do if I was the president of the UWW this time, and I think a lot of them are reasonable, and I don't think a lot of the suggestions I made take a whole lot of resources, and if anything, they have the possibility to raise more resources for the organization, which would then make them a more effective organization because they'd have more money. Obviously I have been critical of the UWW, and I would stand by that statement. And, I think if you listen to my statements again, I don't think it takes a whole lot to implement those processes that I think would better the whole sport.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I listen to a lot of them. I love those different ideas of improvement. I think most of them, if not all of them, I think there's maybe one I had a question on, but I think most of them were dead on. I just look at the macro picture with like a UWW, right? It's a little more international. I don't have as much insight on what goes on, but when people improve, man, it's time to give credit where it's due. And over the last couple of years, I mean, I'm shocked at where UWW is today. Yeah. Right. And so
in a short period, they've done a lot of great things. And I think the undertone of the show, and Ben likes to have some fun with his words, but we're insinuating that, keep going, keep doing, keep doing what's been getting done. Don't settle, because that's the second you settle, it's like in business, they say, if you're not growing, you're dying. Stay fed, stay hungry, stay hungry, stay fed, all those cliches. And that's tough in the nonprofit world. I've got to be honest. I've been in the nonprofit world, and it's difficult because the only person that you have to create a facade that someone's trying to knock your head off in the nonprofit world. You don't have to do that in the for-profit world. It's happening. Somebody's trying to knock your block off. No different than in wrestling. And so it takes a unique mindset, in my opinion, to always push forward. To your point, Martin, there's 1,000 reasons why you can't do something or why you won't do something, but if it's the right thing, you find a way to make it happen. And, I think with this NWCA thing, I'm sure there's a lot of layers. It's pretty sophisticated. To your point, I don't think Mike Moyers or the folks at the NWCA are trying to go up against you or trying to, bring the sport down. But it's interesting, and I'd love to have Mike on the show to talk about why it's difficult, because I know the guy fairly, not well, but I know him well enough to know that he cares about wrestling. He cares about people. So what you're saying, Martin's logical. It'd be interesting to hear as to why it can't happen overnight. And maybe that's just it. Maybe they want to have happen what you're suggesting, but it can't happen overnight. Is there the possibility of that, in your opinion, or?
I think if they really wanted to make it happen, they can make it happen.
Right.
I think they can make it happen. And like I said, there's probably dozens of reasons why it can't happen, Tommy, and really, really good excuses.
Right.
But they signed a contract. To me, if they signed a contract that set this table so that there's not a landscape of competitiveness in wrestling, that's a shame. You shouldn't do that, and you should figure out a way to switch that, right? And some coaches have encouraged me to take legal means, and I just know from business, like, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. If we have to, we'll do that, and we'll go it. But man, what a shame! Now I'm spending money on lawyers. They're spending money on lawyers, and it's like, shouldn't this money be going into wrestling? Shouldn't this money be invested into wrestling, right? And so to me, it's they could find all kinds of excuses, but like I said, I'm not trying to say, hey, NWCA shouldn't partner with track or shouldn't have a relationship. I just think that they should have an open OPC. So, and we're willing to pay for it, a good market rate, whatever it is. So I think that's fair. I think most people will see that that's a fair ask.
It seems fair to me. It seems logical.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, last thing. We want to get you back on here sometime. This is kind of a serious discussion, and we want to.
Yeah, we gotta have some fun.
Some fun sometime.
Yeah.
But before we get you off the line, FloWrestling 2.0 is allegedly coming tomorrow. What can you tell us?
Well, I have to say is our current platform has really been bothering us for some time. We didn't feel like it was really giving the fans how good. We didn't really position wrestling as great as it could be, right? So, the idea of constantly innovating, as we've been talking about, we got a platform that I'm really excited about because it'll allow us to. Not only is it going to be much more mobile friendly and much easier to use, I think it will allow us to make. What it will do is allow us to make improvements a lot faster to that platform. So it may not come out perfect, but in 6 months we're going to be moving. We're going to have a lot more features, and it's going to be just a lot more efficient and just a better overall experience for the users. So, that's coming out here shortly. Where'd you hear about that, Ben?
It's on. I just saw Mark Bader on Facebook talking about it.
I think Willie Saylor was talking about it too. Your employees are letting the cat out of the bag, Martin.
I guess it's not a secret. I was just curious.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up, Martin, and we texted about it a couple weeks ago, and I can't believe you haven't seen it, but I don't think I've ever been excited for a wrestling specific film like I'm excited for the documentary Terry, about Terry Brands, and I think it's going to rock the wrestling community just by watching the trailers and knowing who Terry Brands is, what he's all about. I have a unique relationship with Terry. We've competed against one another as he was a coach, coaching athletes that I wrestled against. What do you think? Have you seen, more than just a trailer of this? And can you share anything with us about this documentary? Because I think it's just going to rock our wrestling community.
Tommy, I literally have goosebumps right now. You just talking about it because I have seen it. I haven't. I've seen certain parts. The parts they'll show me, and it is. It's I can feel tremors. Kind of coming in the wrestling world. They're going to be big quakes, a couple weeks ahead of time, and just through the kind of the buzz of what's going on, and this will be huge. It will be huge. I believe it's the best wrestling piece of content ever created. Right? I'm biased, but I
have the same feeling, and I'm not biased, and I just have the same feeling. I know the subject, and I know the company, that's doing the piece, and I would agree, Martin. So keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm pumped up too. Yeah,
I mean, we set out to do something really unique. I wanted, 20 years from now, someone to, be able to go back and watch something that was timeless, right? That really, really was the pumping iron of wrestling. Just something that was timeless. You could go back to and just be, just watch and love time and time again, and have your kids love, right? And so we set out to create that. And we started out just creating what was going to be like a Kerry Colott piece, right? And it was about 18 months ago, and we just came to the conclusion that this was just too good. It is just too good of a story. And
That's
Kerry's
awesome.
got such a unique thing that we just said, you know what? Let's make this happen. And by the way, USA Wrestling has been instrumental in helping us navigate and figure out ways to make this happen because, we got Olympic footage in there, we got USOC footage, and we got all kinds of footage. And Rich Bender at USA Wrestling have been huge helps, have been a huge help in terms of getting this film and making this film happen. So kudos to them. Obviously, kudos to Kerry, man. It is. I got goosebumps, and it's going to be.
How long?
It's going to be awesome. It'll be about 80 minutes, 75, 80, 90 minutes in that range.
Are you releasing it all at once?
Yeah, it's all one movie. Feature film, baby.
Do the Flow Pro subscribers get it, or do you have to buy it on top of that?
Nope. All Flow Pro subscribers get it.
No, so I'm in business.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're actually having we're hosting a viewing party for it. We're doing a little overnight camp with some of our AWA wrestlers, and Bader told me you guys might send the lawyers up because that would be illegal viewing for the 30 athletes in the building.
Yeah, you're gonna get a licensing fee for that. Yeah, you can get
So,
you need
we're pretty excited.
That's how
about
UFC
it,
does it, baby. I'm just trying to create a bigger economy in wrestling, Ben.
There we go.
Appreciate that.
Well, hopefully I will tell all the little wrestlers that if they don't buy their Flow Pro subscription by the Monday after that, they all got 1,000 push-ups. Well, no, Colette did 10,000, so maybe that many. Which 10,000 is hard for me to fathom because one time I remember I tried to do 1,000, and shoot, that just 1,000 took me a good 45 minutes.
Huh.
You ever did 1,000 push-ups?
No, I
Martin?
mean you didn't have a cattle iron or whatever you had
Martin,
right behind him.
Martin, you got to do 1,000 push-ups. Have you ever done 1,000 in a row?
What does in a row mean? Just
well,
you're there until you stop?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. You obviously rest in between, right?
Yeah. I can only do about 50 at a time.
Yeah. No, I've never done it. Have you, Tom?
No, I haven't. I'm
Martin,
not a push-up guy. I tell you what. One thing, Mitch Clark was my coach in college, and we told him that he could not bench press a textbook that one of us had on the road for a dual meet for an hour. And he got to the last 15 minutes, and it's so bizarre to watch a grown man basically in agony and tears trying to bench press a textbook. But he had done, I don't know how many reps he had done, but we said he couldn't do it for an hour. And the last 15 minutes, the guy it was like he was bench pressing 400 pounds or something. It was hilarious.
Oh, God.
It's funny.
All right, Martin, you gonna call it a night or what?
I'm gonna call it a night.
All right, cool.
Martin, thanks for
guys,
coming on the show.
appreciate
We're gonna have you on again and have a little bit more fun next time.
Yeah, you bet. Do something a little less serious.
All right, brother. Sounds good.
All right, guys.
See you,
See ya.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, Tommy. Well, wow, that was our longest show ever.
Ben, I don't know what we're gonna decide, but we can still have this recorded. I think it should be in two parts, but maybe you and I can talk, and either way, I just hope that everybody there was a lot of power pack content.
Yeah.
So it's 100 minutes though of recording.
We had, I want an hour and 28 right now. I think that could go into one show. It's right on that border there. Give it in one or cut it in two. I say we'll send it to our editor, see what he says.
Okay, you got it, brother. So what do we got on the docket next week?
Well, we did get to it today, but I'm Cash, so I got to call it quits. But we were supposed to talk about the U.S. Open, which is happening this week. So we'll talk about results after that.
That's right.
We don't have a guest. We do have a few people who volunteered to come on. So maybe
Mike Moyer will come on too.
Mike Moyer,
we reached out to him today.
Silent H can't. He volunteered, and I'm sure he'll be out at the U.S. Open coaching. So maybe we'll get the good old Silent H.
Silent H. There's plenty of people. We can get Jay Jaggers on for some fashion advice, coaching fashion advice. No, I'm just kidding. He's one of my best friends. We should have him on the show. He's got great insight.
Nice. You got to ask him about the. Hey, Quartz, that's not a donut. That's his hand you're trying to grab.
I just hope that I'm giving you some crow to eat in March, because that's when it really matters, my brother.
Okay. Well, you have a good night, Tommy.
Okay.
See ya.
Sounds good. Have a good one.